What's up, guys? This is Max here. You guys know me better as Madaz, and I do know it's been a while since I released a video, but if you guys follow me on Twitter, you'd know that I was on vacation for almost a month, and it pretty much coincided with the market being not exactly ideal for us to trade in. It was pretty crummy for the longest time, very difficult to find the perfect setup, and it was a huge test of patience and discipline to find the right trade and be consistently profitable. But thankfully, I managed to pull that off. It was definitely a huge challenge, but I'm glad it worked out in the end. Now, the past couple weeks have been a lot better. I would say that the market is getting really, really close to the ideal trading conditions that I want to trade in and be very, very consistently profitable with relative ease. The past couple weeks, I think been up maybe close to 20 grand. I don't know how you look at it. Either way, that's a pretty good amount of money for 2 weeks worth of work. I see some people making even more than that, which is great to see. People doing very well. Shows you the whole market has picked up and opportunities are very plentiful. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and discuss the topic of today's video, which is manipulation. And what exactly do I mean by that? It's a word that I use a lot. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I use the word manipulation, terms like coin flip, gamble. What exactly do I mean by that? So basically, the stock market, there's manipulation everywhere, no matter what. It's just the degree of manipulation that affects the edge for the retail trader. Okay? So try to understand what I mean by that. So it doesn't matter where you go, there's some degree, whether it be a little bit or a lot of manipulation on every single stock, pretty much. Okay, there's lots of guys, hedge funds, people just screwing with the stock, and it's up to us to kind of figure out which stock gives us the most edge, right? And to me, the stock that is very, very manipulated has the least amount of edge because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes and what's going on behind the stock. Why are they manipulating it? Why is it behaving the way it is? Okay, and this video is to point out how to recognize the types of manipulation that basically decreases your edge to the point where the only way for you to become profitable consistently trading that stock on that given day, given the way it behaves, is pretty much probably just getting lucky, which is something that you want to avoid because relying completely on luck in the market is not a strategy that is sustainable. So that being said, I'm going to talk mainly the stocks that have been in play recently. So VRX is one of them, of course. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, like I said, VRX was a stock that was very, very nice to me. It was a stock that was pretty much very, very, very easy to trade in terms of its behavior, and it was very predictable. It was very easy to gauge entries and exits, and pretty much I was profitable on almost every single trade on VRX up to about a couple days ago when Citibank kind of upgraded the stock, and that pretty much signaled the end of the what I would call organic movement of the stock and transitioned to this more grinding and more controlled and, dare I say, manipulated action on VRX. So why was I able to make so much money before on VRX with relative ease using my washout buying strategy and pop shorting strategy? And by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with that, feel free to check out my other video on buying dips and shorting pops. That's pretty much what I'm referring to when I say that. So if you want to take a look at the chart before this ramp, pretty much, I believe this is when the analyst upgrade was. Not sure if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but one of these days. So prior to that, see if we can go back as far as possible. So prior to that, as you can see, especially here, it's pretty obvious that the stock had a lot more range and it oscillated a lot more. So every time you see these huge candles, especially say, for example, this day, where the stock had all these wicks, these are entries for you to get in and look at the next candle and hits a huge bounce. So right here it dropped to 74.5 and it bounces to all the way up to 79.5. So I mean, this is a $5 bounce off of this huge drop. This is the day where it dropped from 92 down to 74. So this day was really nice. This kind of action was pretty much the theme on VRX for a good several days, a week, a little bit more than a week. And I was able to take advantage of this pretty much every single day, especially at the open. Look at this washout, 82 down to 77.6, and a bounce immediately on the next candle all the way up to 80. And if you held a little bit longer, you got almost 81. And you can see there's more wicks here. And I was pretty much buying all the wicks and selling the next pop and shorting any candles, shorting any pops that you see here on these wicks. Short here around 85.5, cover here around 83.8, almost $2 a share. And I was just doing this over and over again and pretty much making anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 every single day off of VRX for a good 4, 5, 6 days or whatever it was. You can see the next day more or less the same thing, huge wick at the open. So this is a very nice short opportunity, shorting 85 and covering 83s, and then more wicks here, more wicks. So the bottom line was this stock provided more opportunities given the way it behaved. It was trading more organically, and when you see a stock that makes a huge move, huge gap, whatever, if it's trading naturally, organically, whatever term you want to use, it should pull back, right? So that's exactly what you see here, huge move up from pre-market, retest at the same level, and then a little bit of a dip. Okay, so when the stock goes up, it should go down at least a little bit and then continue the uptrend. If it goes down, then it should go back up a little bit and continue the downtrend if that's what it's supposed to do, not go straight down in a grinding fashion or straight up in a grinding fashion without any much of a reversal move in between, be it a small one or a large one, if that makes sense. So basically, fast forward to, which day was it? I believe it was this day. So 69 low here. I actually got caught shorting this pop. I believe I shorted this pop around the 70s and pretty much should have covered here. I guess I got a little bit greedy, missed the cover, and it never went back down. It just kept grinding. As you can see here, it went from 70 to 75, but it took a good hour and a half to do that. And you just saw some examples of how VRX traded a few days before. It would make a $5 move in one candle almost sometimes. So you're talking about a volatile move where the stock can go $5 in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and now the stock grinds up a little bit more slow. This isn't exactly unbearable action, but it's a little bit more difficult to trade this because the dips are not as nice. As you can see, there are less wicks. The candles are smaller. So if you're caught short here and it's grinding against you, you're going to be in a huge headache like I was, end up taking a loss on this trade. But overall, you can see that the stock kind of behaved a little bit differently starting today. Not today, but to this day, Wednesday. So as you can see, after I made the top here on 75, I started to attempt to short the pops, thinking that it would do the same thing that it did before, provide a nice little washout to cover in. But as you can see, there was only one wick right there and another one there, and for the most part it was just grinding, trading in almost a $1 range for several hours and pretty much going nowhere until the close. So this day was the first day where I noticed that there was something a little bit different about VRX, and it just happened to coincide with Citibank's analyst upgrade. So I'm not sure if it was this day or this day it was the upgrade, but if they released the upgrade on Thursday, then on Wednesday they were probably doing something so they can probably load up cheap and then make bank the next couple days. So this is where I get into the next day. So the next day, it did make a nice move at the open. Okay, you see that this thing did go from 72 up to almost 80 in a relatively short amount of time. Still took an hour to make the move, but this is a pretty nice move. And I was looking for a nice dip to get in. Okay, because I'm not going to chase this thing as it's rocketing up parabolically. I'm not going to risk getting in randomly at 75 or, you know, pick a number and have it tank back down to 72 and swallow a huge loss. So pretty much I was waiting for a dip. Dip never came, and you know, that's not really surprising to me because at this point I was kind of really adamant on the fact that there's a force behind this thing that's keeping this thing up. Okay, there was one dip right here, but pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 straight green candles, and pretty much not even much of a dip at the top except for right here. It stalled for a little bit, dipped, and then just grinded, made another move up, grinded, and then made another move up. So there was no dip, and like I said, when a stock moves organically or behaves in a more natural state, it's supposed to pull back. Okay, it's supposed to go up, go back down a little bit, and then continue to go up, etc., etc., etc. But this one just moves straight up. And if you were watching the level 2 on this day, you would notice that every single time that this stock attempted to go down, as if it was trying to behave organically, as if it found some sellers and some resistance, there were some bids that propped it up. And what do I mean by that? If you look at the level 2, sometimes you will see maybe a wall on the bid. You could also see a wall on the ask, but in this case it was on the bid. You'll see a wall in the bid, and sometimes it's hidden size, and what I mean by hidden size is you'll see the amount of shares they're showing is maybe only 100 shares, but for whatever reason they're able to absorb all the sells, be it several hundred or even 1,000,000 shares somehow, despite showing just 100 shares on the bid. So clearly there's something going on there. Somebody wants this stock up. That's what you should conclude out of seeing something like that. When you see that the stock is holding up and absorbing all the bids, you got to understand that something is holding it up. Okay, somebody behind the scenes, be it the market makers, be it the insiders, the analysts, whatever, they want this thing to go up. And maybe they're holding the stock there and trying to get cheap shares for themselves, or who knows, okay? At this point, you can't really make any conclusions with certainty other than based on the action that you see. This thing is probably going to keep going up, and it's too risky to chase it because you don't know when they're going to stop propping the bids, because once they pull the bids, this thing could drop back to 72 on a dime. So that's why I don't advocate chasing. It's just not a sustainable strategy. So definitely you should wait for a dip. If there's no dip, then what I would do is I just let it go, and whenever there's an opportunity where there's a good dip, then maybe I'll try to get in. If not, then I just let it go. So I actually just let this move happen, and I didn't chase it because it's against my rules. And I did see that there was a lot of bid propping, and pretty much starting from this day on, from this move from 72 all the way up to today, where it went all the way up to 91, you can see that all day. Okay, you can see that the stock, as it's grinding up, it attempted to drop multiple times at prior resistance levels, and the bids showed up and they held it up. Okay, and again, you don't exactly know why they're doing that. At some points in time, it could just be somebody holding the stock up so somebody can load up a large short position. It could just be somebody that's preventing it from tanking because they want to see it higher. It could just be somebody trying to load up cheap shares. You don't know, okay? I mean, you can make some educated guesses, but you just simply don't know. So it's in your best interest as the retail trader, okay, to try to just avoid stocks like this, because if you kind of jump into the crossfire not knowing what these guys are trying to accomplish here, doing what they're doing by manipulating the stock, you're pretty much putting yourself in a position where you might get a bad entry and they pull the bids, and all of a sudden you're down $2-3 a share, and you're like, what the hell? I bought the stock near a key support level, and all of a sudden the bids disappeared. They stopped absorbing the sells, and the thing just drops like a rock. I mean, what are you gonna do in that situation? So how I traded this thing is pretty much I would just avoid it if it's just trading in too tight of a range, or it's grinding up in very small increments at a time. As you can see, sometimes here you can tell that it's going up 88 to 89, blah blah blah, but I'm not going to trade a stock that's trading in a $1 or less than a $1 range over a period of an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. That's just not good risk reward. So I just waited until there were good washouts, and I would still be very sketchy about it, because I actually got in a trade right here. I saw this move. It went from 85, 84.9 all the way up to 88. So that's a nice $4 move in a relatively short amount of time. It's 3 minutes candle, so it's about 12 minutes. And then it tanked, and then I bought it somewhere around here, around 86, 86.1, 86.2 or something like that. And then it yanked all the way down to 85.6. And I initially took a loss on it, and then I bought it back when I saw that it kind of regained this 86 level, and then the bids kind of absorbed all of the sells again. And that's when I kind of realized that the forces behind the move on VRX, whoever they may be, they wanted the stock back up. So I bought this stock back in small around 86, and I got a nice move, and then I ended up selling it around 87 or something like that. I didn't want to chance it. A large wick again. So I got in, got out, and I made my $1 per share gain, and just bailed. So that's how I pretty much played it. I just played it with really small size, and protect myself from any sort of manipulative BS where they just pull the bids and then the stock just drops. So that's how you can kind of realize this. Okay, this is something that's very important. When you see a stock that's trading like this, you got to understand that there are some guys with big money, some hedge funds, who knows, some billion-dollar guys with large bank accounts. Okay, they got a lot of influence on the action on this stock, and if you're a guy with maybe a small account, like a couple $1,000s, you're gonna get bullied if you don't know what you're doing and you just jump into the deep end of the pool. Okay, so you got to pretty much realize what's going on, and either A, avoid it altogether, or B, really mitigate your risk by lowering your position size. Okay, so I end up doing only 250 shares. Normally I would do 500 shares, but I end up doing just 250 shares on this one. And still managed to make a good couple $100. Wasn't that bad on that trade, so better than nothing. Didn't want to miss the move completely, but at the same time I didn't want to expose myself to an unnecessary amount of risk. So that's pretty much VRX. As you can see, the difference between the day it was easy to trade using my washout strategy, and the days where it got substantially more difficult when it started grinding, as opposed to giving us some nice washouts and pops for entry points. Okay, so that's VRX. I want to touch up a little bit on KBIO, just because it seems to be the stock of the hour. Pretty epic move today. As we all know, KBIO, epic move after hours from a couple days ago. And pretty much continued the move today. As you can see here, thing went from 2 to 24, and today kind of grinded up and went parabolic, and then it just went nowhere pretty much for the rest of the day. So I just want to talk about this one, because there was a lot of manipulation on this one as well. As you can see, it went straight up with no dip. You can just say the shorts got squeezed, but definitely there's a lot of stuff going on here screwing with the price of the stock. Okay, and you can see the rest of the day you got a lot of attempted breakouts, but they turned out to be fake outs. And I kept stressing on Twitter that you got to pretty much wait for a nice dip or a nice breakout and a hold of the previous resistance, which should be acting as support. So I was pretty much looking for, first, when it made this move right here from 18 all the way up to 21, I was looking for a 20 hold, and pretty much a continuation of the move back to the highs of the day around 23. It did hold 20 for a little bit. I actually bought on this dip here at 19.6 and I sold it on this candle right here in the low to mid 20s. And pretty much it tried to break over 21 again, and then it got slammed back down. And I believe I scalped this move one more time right here on this wick and sold it right here. And I was stressing on Twitter for people not to just randomly buy it in the 20s, because if you buy it in the 20s, you don't know what's going on. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? It's pretty much a coin flip at this point, because you don't know if they're going to show up with a big bid or some big ask is going to show up and they're going to slam back down. This is pretty much no man's land. You got to wait for the breakout and wait for the retest of support for their entry, or a washout right here back to a prior level of support. So you got to pretty much wait for your entry. Don't just randomly jump in and hope that the trade works in your favor. So KBIO, definitely a lot of screwy stuff going on. There are a lot of big bids and big asks if you were watching the level 2 action today. So definitely there was somebody that was trying to control the price of the stock between a certain level. Could have also been shorts trying to cover and new shorts trying to jump in. But either way, it was definitely affecting the price of the stock. So for the most part, you can see that after the morning move, it pretty much traded in a range, and it was relatively untradeable. I didn't really touch it that much after the morning, aside from the 2 trades that I mentioned. So definitely yesterday, you can see the same action. Nice move here, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of weird candles where it just goes nowhere for a pretty long period of time. You got 45 minutes where it's trading in a 50-cent range on the stock that's supposed to be low float and supposed to have a lot of volatility. So, and if you were actually watching the level 2 action during this this time period, you can see a lot of really strange stuff going on. These wicks were caused by an attempted washout and then a prop 40k bid that randomly showed up and shot it back up. So definitely a lot of screwy stuff yesterday, and I was also stressing, like I did today, for people not to attempt to just randomly jump in right here in the 12s, mid 12s, thinking that it's going to break out back toward the highs in the morning and new highs, because, well, you don't know what's going on. At this point, it was still being propped. There were a couple occasional big asks showing up, so you don't know what they're trying to do here. All of a sudden, they yank it. So if you bought it in the 12s, well, good luck. Have fun with the quick 2.5 point loss right here in just 12 minutes. So that's why you shouldn't be just randomly jumping in, and you got to recognize that the stock is being propped or being held down by an ask, a huge ask, or a hidden ask. So you got to be able to recognize that on the level 2. You should see it on the level 2 that there's something sketchy going on, and that's when you pretty much know just to avoid it altogether. Alright, so that's pretty much how I avoid headaches and recognize manipulation and use it to identify which trades are pretty much favorable for the retail trader, which trades are less favorable, where you have an edge, where you don't have an edge. And that's one key way for me to pretty much execute my plans and stay consistently profitable, and at the same time not very much walk away with a huge headache at the end of the day. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I always try my best to respond to everyone's inquiries, and feel free to send me a direct message if you need to. So that being said, guys, hopefully you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's been an awesome week. Hopefully we get more of this kind of action until the rest of the year and beyond that. So keep it up, guys, and have a wonderful weekend. See you guys on Monday.